Yep, I definitely have a new favourite tyre. Okay, we're going to talk about these. These are the Louise Rowdy's 1.9s, also known as the Duratrax Contender, I think. Louise and Duratrax apparently are the same company. If you know differently, then tell me below. Great, so let's take a look at one. Cool, so these kind of reviews are a bit weird if you just see the tyre on its own, but just to go over the main features, it is sticky. It sticks to itself. It sticks to rocks, it sticks to trees, it sticks to root. It just sticks. It's really sticky compound. Feels to me stickier than Predator, but also feels a bit more durable. Not sure how they've managed to make that happen, especially at the price. But yeah, they're great. Looking at the tread pattern, reminds me of a modified Canyon Trail, which I actually have some to show you all. Really nice wide open tread blocks, really big chunky lugs that hopefully wear well, and yeah, not too closely spaced down the middle. So the other tyre that they do that's kind of similar is the Deepwoods, and the tread block in the middle tends to be quite close together, and also these lugs are a lot closer together. What I really like about these is the sidewall feels super thick, and in fact if I grab some calipers we can take a quick look. Now obviously you've got the size of the bead as well, but it feels like, if I just give these a squeeze, yeah, about 2.4 mil on the sidewall. I'm just, yeah, about 2.2, 2.4. I'm just pinching through the bead and just making sure that they're getting the sidewall there. Cool. Overall, it's supposedly a 120 tyre. When you kind of find the right point, yeah, about 120, pretty good. And without a foam in, yeah, quite not bad. About 50 mil wide. Yeah, nearly 50 mil, there or thereabouts, depending on how wide your foams are. But yeah, I really like them. I've run them on both these trucks, and even though I managed to break both of these, update on this one coming soon, and this one just snapped the CVD on the front as usual with GMade. They make fantastic performing trucks, but they do seem to be very brittle compared to the TRX, but then anything's brittle compared to a TRX. Right, since the calipers are out, we may as well do some measurements on some of the other tyres to see how they compare. I've got a GMade MT 1903, yeah, 1903. It's actually quite a small tyre, and it's the stock one for the GMade, which is a GSO2, and they're about 106 to about 108, depending on how tight you do your calipers. And then the width without foams is about 40 mil. The good old Canyon Trails, which are modified here, they're around 47, 48 mil wide, and then about 115, 116 in height. And then we've got some Pro lines and some, well, they're not real Hyrax, they're the Chirax. I thought, you know, they were cheap, so let's try them. All of these measure about the same. These, because they're a knockoff, are a little bit slimmer, but both of these are 120 mil by, I think they're about 40 something, yeah, about 45, 46 mil. Now if we compare them all together in rough size order, we can see that the Louises are just as tall as any other tyre that you would run, but they are much wider. In fact, they're even wider than the Canyon Trails, which came as quite a surprise to me. I prefer a high-performing tyre, but if you're into something a bit more scale, you're probably going to go for these Pro lines, which I can highly recommend, although the Predator compound on a warm day in the UK, on kind of like the gritstone that we have up in Yorkshire and the peaks, that can be a bit rough on the tyres and really does rip the treads apart. But if we compare it to the GMade, I mean, it's night and day. The GMade's got like these middle lugs that essentially invalidate the wider spacing on the side, because this is what's stopping these from biting, so that's rubbish. The Chinese Hyrax look great on pictures, but the compound's far too hard. These have been chemically washed to try and make them softer. Didn't really work. Yeah. Canyon Trails, probably the best tyre that comes RTR today. I've obviously cut off all the little nubs and then siped them. I would suggest that instead of horizontally siping them, vertically sipe them, because the horizontal sipes just meant that they wore really quickly and they're not as grippy as they could be. So they've come to the end of their useful life a bit too quickly. If you vertically siped them, these blocks would be able to move a lot better, and so as they wear, they would still use the internal surface as a traction surface, and moving around will let them grip better. However, whichever way you sipe them, you'll just get that bit more flexibility out of the casing without affecting the sidewall. And interestingly, the Traxxas have one of the thickest sidewalls, so if we just try and check that out, that's about 2.7. So these Louises are coming in slightly thinner than a Canyon Trail, and I've still managed to rip Canyon Trails, but that's because I run brushless and I'm not always the most careful person. Pro lines, as I say, Predator compound for me is about as useful as tissue paper. I've got multiple repairs in these. I think there's a bike puncture patch repair somewhere. It's probably the only one that isn't repaired, I imagine I've picked up, but let's just check. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So I've had to repair them with a puncture patch because they tear along the bead, which is annoying. And not on this one, but I have had lugs rip off completely, and I have had the bead separate. So I end up running silicone glue or trying to sort of heat melt them back together, or in a rush super glue. But, you know, a good tyre, nice wide open lug spacing. But if we look at the size of the lugs on a Krawler compared to these are, at an estimate, about 50 to nearly 100% bigger in surface area. And in fact, the easiest way would be to just measure. So these are about 6.6 tall. These are 7.7 tall, being 8mm wide, and these are quite hard to measure. Yeah, about 7-8mm wide. So yeah, probably about 50% bigger. Just sort of eyeballing them, it's quite hard to tell. But definitely in terms of height of the lugs, which will be very difficult to measure. I'll do my best. About 2.3. Let's have a look. Actually, yeah, about 3mm in terms of height. And these ones, try and find one. Obviously, I'm sort of twisting them. They're about 2mm high. So definitely a taller, wider, better spaced lug on these. The KM3s, I think is fantastic scale tyre, works great in the mud, probably the best performing scale looking tyre that I've used, even better than the Crawlers, but yeah, these are better. We'll do the stickiness test again on the Predators. They still stick reasonably well. Yeah. Do the Louises. That's going to take a while. Yeah, that's still stuck. In fact, it's so sticky it's formed like a vacuum, so we'll release that. Great. So, final thoughts. Yeah, Club 5 Racing on eBay, about $18 for a set of 2 foams and 2 tyres. The tyres themselves you can buy without the foams if you already have your own foams. They mount really easily. I'm not doing it on these because I've already mounted them in a rush and didn't think about making this video till afterwards, but it took roughly 30 minutes to do both trucks, all 4 wheels, including the fact that these weird GMade wheels have a tiny little adapter that you have to put on and play about with and tighten up and swear and scream and cry, but still every single wheel mounted up first time, put the back ring in, seated almost straight away, put the front one on, started to tighten them down, just gave a little tug on the bead and they've gone on perfectly. These wheels, they've had a lot of different tyres put on them. The foams have got wet. I've had loads of times where I've had to undo them, so these screws are starting to get a bit chewed up, and so I have to kind of play around with, you know, Allen drivers and a pair of pliers to get them on and off, so that can make mounting tyres difficult if they're not a good set of tyres. It was the same process here, literally stuff the ring in the middle, put the back on, just seat the bead on that, hold it in my hands, put the front on, and normally I have to use an extra long screw to kind of hold them together. With these ones, just seated this ring in the bead, gave it a good squeeze and just did them straight up, sort of 1 2 3 1 2 3, done, not a problem. Didn't come loose, didn't have any screws coming loose. Yeah, easy as. So definitely recommend them if you're not too worried about scale, or if you want an aggressive scale tyre. These are absolutely perfect. If you want something that is scale, then absolutely recommend the Proline BFGoodrich KM3 mud terrains, but get them in a G8 compound unless you're happy to absolutely destroy them in 2 or 3 runs. The wear on these lugs was from a 4-hour trip to the Peak District, where it was about 25 to 28 degrees Celsius on gritstone, and they went from being absolutely perfect to not. If this video has been of any use to you, then please consider giving me a thumbs up and smash that subscribe button and hit the bell, and you'll find out more about the Climb Like a Spider and some of the other projects that I've got coming up. Cheers!